Ever feel like anger just hijacks your whole mood? Like 1 minute you're cruising along and then bam, some tiny thing just sets you off.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And suddenly your whole day is kind of ruined. Well, today we're going to deep dive into that feeling,
We are.
using a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson to guide us.
Right.
He famously said, "For every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness."
He really gets right to the heart of it, doesn't he? I mean, we all get the same amount of time in a day, right?
Right. 24 hours.
Exactly. But it's up to each of us how we use those minutes.
Yeah, it sounds so simple when you put it that way.
It does.
But if we're really honest, how often do we actually choose happiness?
Yeah.
When anger pops up.
That's the tough part, isn't it? It's easy to get swept up in the emotion, especially when we think we're right to be angry. But I don't think Emerson's saying anger is wrong.
Right.
He's just pointing out what it costs us to hold on to it.
And I think that's a really key point.
Mm.
We're not trying to pretend anger doesn't exist or that it's bad to feel it.
Yeah.
It's more about understanding how anger affects us
Right.
and finding healthier ways to deal with it.
Absolutely.
To help us with that, we've got some really cool research on the science of anger and happiness,
Oh, this is going to be good.
how they work in our brains and why they kind of clash.
They really do. And once you understand what's happening in your brain, you can actually start making different choices.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Yeah.
What's going on when we get angry? Like, picture this. You're just driving along and someone cuts you off.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Right. And immediately your body goes into that fight or flight mode.
Heart's pounding. Maybe you even feel your face get hot.
Yeah.
It's like our brains haven't quite caught up to modern times.
Like we're still reacting like cavemen with a saber-toothed tiger on our tail.
Exactly. It's because your brain is suddenly flooded with all these stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline.
So that's why we get that surge of energy.
Yeah. And that was super helpful back in the day when we needed to run away from danger. But these days, those hormones aren't really helping us escape a predator.
More like making that spilled coffee feel like a life or death situation.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's like a fire alarm going off in your brain for no reason.
So burnt toast shouldn't send us into full panic mode.
Not really. And the thing is, when those stress hormones are constantly high, like when we're holding on to anger for a long time,
Yeah.
it can really mess with our mental and physical health.
Okay, so it's not just about feeling grumpy. We're talking potential anxiety, high blood pressure, maybe even getting sick more easily.
That's right. None of that sounds very happy, does it?
Definitely not. So if anger is like a storm cloud in the brain, what's happiness like?
Oh, happiness is like sunshine bursting through. When we feel joy, gratitude, love, our brain releases a whole different set of chemicals. Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin.
Ooh, just hearing those words makes me feel better.
Right, it's like a feel-good party in your brain.
So anger and happiness have totally opposite effects on us. But is it really true that they can't exist at the same time, like Emerson said?
That's what's so fascinating about the brain. Our brains just aren't wired to feel both extremes at once.
Okay, so like trying to listen to two songs at the same time, it's just a mess.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
can't really focus on either one. And Emerson's point is that we have a choice in every moment.
Right. So do we let anger run the show, or do we make an effort to focus on things that make us happy?
It's about realizing we're in control even when it feels like our emotions are taking over.
I love that. We have more power than we think.
We really do. But if it's that easy, why do we sometimes hold on to anger even when we know it's not helping us?
That's a good question.
Well, there are a few reasons why anger can be so hard to let go of, and understanding those reasons can help us break free from its grip.
All right, well, let's dive into those reasons.
We will, but in the next part of our deep dive. So we know anger and happiness do a number on our brains and bodies, but even knowing that, letting go of anger can be tough.
It's like we get addicted to feeling bad even when it's not doing us any good. So why do we do that? Why do we cling to anger?
Well, there are a few reasons why anger can be so hard to let go of, even when we know it's not good for us.
Okay.
One reason is anger can feel like it's the right response when something unfair has happened.
Right, like it's our way of saying, hey, don't mess with me.
Exactly. It can feel empowering to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Anger might make you feel powerful for a minute, but it doesn't usually solve the problem.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And it can even cause more problems down the road, especially in relationships.
So it's like we think we're in control, but the anger is actually controlling us.
Yeah, it's like we're letting our emotions drive, and they're not always the best drivers.
Good analogy.
Another reason we hold on to anger is habit. For some people, anger is their automatic response to stress or getting upset. It's like a path in their brain that's been used so much, it's easy to fall into.
Like our brains are on autopilot, replaying the same old negative thoughts.
Exactly. And it can be really hard to break those habits.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that we can change.
Right. We're not stuck with our bad habits.
Exactly. With a little awareness and effort, we can rewire our brains and respond in healthier ways.
That's good to hear.
You mentioned something earlier about anger giving us this illusion of control.
Oh, yeah.
And it ties in with what we were just talking about. When we're angry, we can feel like we're calling the shots. Like we can dictate how others should act or how things should go.
Yeah.
But that sense of control is often fake, and it comes with a price.
So what's the price we pay for hanging on to anger? I mean, we talked about the physical stuff.
Right.
But I bet there's an emotional cost, too.
Absolutely. And it's a big one. Anger sucks up our energy. It steals our focus. And it makes it almost impossible to enjoy the moment. It's like lugging around a heavy backpack full of rocks.
Yep.
You might think you need it, but it's just weighing you down.
And I bet it doesn't just affect us personally, it also hurts our relationships, right?
Exactly. Emerson believed that choosing happiness makes our relationships stronger. But when anger takes over, it builds walls between us. It's like we're looking at the world and the people in it through these anger-colored glasses.
And we miss out on all the good stuff.
Exactly. All the connection and joy. It's like Emerson saying, don't let anger steal those precious moments. Choose happiness and watch your relationships bloom.
So how do we actually do that? How do we let go of anger and become happier people?
The good news is there are a lot of practical things we can do.
Okay.
The first step is noticing those early warning signs that anger is building. That tension in your chest, your thoughts racing, your jaw clenched.
It's like our body is sending us a message like, hey, watch out, anger's coming.
Exactly. And one of the simplest yet most effective things you can do is just pause and take a deep breath.
Oh, yeah, that always helps.
It activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is like hitting the reset button on your emotions.
It's amazing how powerful something so simple can be. It's like stopping the anger before it gets out of control.
Exactly. Another good technique is changing your perspective.
What do you mean?
When you feel that anger rising, ask yourself, will this even matter in a week, a month, a year?
Interesting.
Often the things that make us angry in the moment seem huge, but when you look at the bigger picture, they lose their power.
Like when you're up close to a painting, you just see a bunch of brushstrokes.
Yeah.
But when you step back, you see the whole beautiful picture.
Exactly. And sometimes just acknowledging your anger without judging it can help.
What do you mean?
Try saying to yourself, okay, I'm feeling angry, and that's okay, but I don't have to let it take over.
Like we're separating ourselves from the emotion.
Right.
Okay.
And that gives us the power to choose how we respond instead of just reacting.
That's empowering. But even with all these tools, sometimes anger can feel really stubborn.
That's true, and that's where gratitude comes in. Gratitude is like anger's kryptonite.
Oh, really?
When we focus on the things we're thankful for, it's like flipping a switch in our brain.
Okay.
We go from negative to positive.
I can see that. It's hard to stay angry when you're appreciating the good things you have.
Exactly. And if you're having trouble feeling grateful, journaling can be a big help.
Oh, right. That can help us sort out our feelings.
Yeah, it gets those thoughts and emotions out of your head and onto paper.
Sometimes just writing things down can release some of that anger
Yeah.
and make room for happier feelings.
Exactly. But what about those times when you feel like your anger is justified?
Yeah.
Like when someone has really hurt you, that's where forgiveness comes in. And I want to be clear, forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay.
Okay.
It's about choosing to let go of the anger you're holding on to towards yourself or someone else. It frees you from the resentment that's keeping you stuck in the past.
So it's more about helping ourselves than the other person.
Yeah, it's about finding peace of mind.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So are there other things we can do to feel happier?
One of the best ways to shift out of anger and into happiness is to do things you enjoy.
Yeah.
Whether it's exercising, being in nature, listening to music, spending time with loved ones.
I like that.
These things lift our mood and help us move away from anger.
So it's not just about controlling anger, it's about creating happiness.
Exactly. It's about filling your life with things that feed your soul.
This is making me think about Emerson's quote in a whole new way. It's not just an idea, it's a guide to living a happier life.
It really is. And remember, choosing happiness over anger is a journey. It's not always easy, but it's worth it.
Before we move on to some real-world examples, let's recap the main points from Emerson's quote. What are the most important things for our listeners to remember? So we've talked about the science behind all this, and we've explored some practical ways to ditch anger and cultivate happiness. But let's bring it back to Emerson. What are the key takeaways from his quote?
I think the most important thing is that we choose happiness. We can't always control what life throws at us,
Right.
but we can control how we react. And that choice we make in each moment, that's what determines how happy we are.
That's a big part of what Emerson was all about, isn't it? It's not about ignoring our feelings,
Right.
but recognizing that we have the power to choose how we handle them.
Exactly. And another crucial takeaway is time. Every moment is precious.
Yeah.
We can either waste those moments being angry, or we can choose to create something good. Joy, connection, meaning.
Emerson really wanted us to make the most of our time, didn't he? He understood how anger steals away not just our happiness, but also so many other good things.
And one more thing. Mastering our emotions, especially anger,
Yeah.
that's a superpower.
Okay.
It helps us deal with tough stuff, it strengthens our relationships, and it makes our lives better overall.
It's like he's saying, hey, you have this amazing ability to choose happiness, to create a life filled with good things.
It's a really inspiring message.
So to help us visualize this, let's imagine something I think we've all experienced. You're driving to work and someone cuts you off.
Don't you hate that?
The worst. And you instantly feel that anger and frustration. Your heart starts pounding, your blood pressure goes up.
Mm-hmm.
You might even yell a few things you wouldn't say to their face.
I think we've all been there.
It's so easy to get caught up in that anger, especially when you feel like you've been wronged.
It really is.
Yeah.
But this is where choice comes in. Instead of letting that anger ruin your whole morning,
Yeah.
what if you took a deep breath, reminded yourself that this one jerk doesn't get to control your day,
All right.
and chose to focus on something good instead?
So like put on your favorite song, enjoy the view, maybe even just feel grateful that you're safe and healthy.
Exactly. It's about shifting your perspective and taking back your emotional control. And here's the interesting part. When we choose happiness over anger, even in these little everyday moments, it affects not just our mood, but also how we interact with others.
I like that.
And in the end, it changes our whole sense of well-being.
It's a tiny choice with huge consequences, and it's a perfect example of how Emerson's wisdom works in real life.
It is. By letting go of the anger and focusing on something good,
Yeah?
we reclaim those moments and make more room for happiness.
So to wrap things up today, I want to leave you with this thought. The next time you feel that anger coming on, remember those 60 seconds. Remember that you have the power to choose happiness instead. It might be a shift in perspective, a deep breath, a moment of gratitude.
It really can be that simple.
But those little choices can change everything. Emerson was right. Every moment is a chance for joy. Don't let anger steal it away. So here's the challenge for you. What's one small thing you can do today to choose happiness over anger?
Think about it. And then go out and make it happen.
You got this.